its substance I could not tell. It was as though built of the lacquer of the gems whose color it held. And beautiful, wondrously, incredibly beautiful it was, an immense bubble of froth of molten sapphires and turquoises. We had not time to study its beauties. A few last instructions to Ruth, and we set forth down the gray road. Hardly had we taken a few steps when there came a faint cry from her. "Dick! Dick! Come here!" He sprang to her, caught her hands in his. For a moment, half frightened it seemed, she considered him. "Dick," I heard her whisper. "Dick, come back safe to me." I saw his arms close about her, hers tighten around his neck. Black hair touched the silken brown curls, their lips met, clung. I turned away. In a little time he joined me, head down, silent. He strode along beside me, utterly dejected. 100 more yards and we turned. Ruth was still standing on the threshold of the house of mystery, watching us. She waved her hands, flitted in. She was hidden from us. And Drake, still silent, we pushed on. The walls of the gateway were close. The sparse vegetation along the base of the cliffs had ceased. The roadway itself had merged into the smooth, bare floor of the canyon. From vertical edge to vertical edge of the rocky portal stretched a curtain of shimmering mist. As we drew nearer we saw that this was motionless, and less like vapor of water than vapor of light. It streamed in oddly fixed lines like atoms of crystals in a still solution. Drake thrust an arm within it, waved it. The mist did not move. It seemed instead to interpenetrate the arm, as though bone and flesh were spectral, without power to dislodge the shining particles from position. We passed within it, side by side. Instantly I knew that whatever these veils were, they were not moisture. The air we breathed was dry, electric. I was sensible of a decided simulation, a pleasant tingling along every nerve, a gaiety almost light-headed. We could see each other quite plainly, the rocky floor on which we trod as well. Within this vapor of light there was no ghost of sound. It was utterly empty of it. I saw Drake turn to me, his mouth opened in a laugh, his lips move in speech, and although he bent close to my ear, I heard nothing. He frowned, puzzled, and walked on. Abruptly we stepped into an opening, a pocket of clear air. Our ears were filled with a high shrill humming as unpleasantly vibrant as the shriek of a sandblast. 6 feet to our right was the edge of the ledge on which we stood. Beyond it was a sheer drop into space, a shaft piercing down into the void and walled with the mists. But it was not that shaft that made us clutch each other. No, it was that through it uprose a colossal column of the cubes. It stood 100 feet from us. Its top was another 100 feet above the level of our ledge, and its length vanished in the depths. And its head was a gigantic spinning wheel, yards in thickness, tapering at its point of contact with the cliff wall into a diameter half that of the side closest the column, gleaming with flashes of green flame and grinding with tremendous speed at the face of the rock. Over it, attached to the cliff, was a great visored hood of some pale yellow metal, and it was this shelter that, cutting off the vaporous light like an enormous umbrella, made the pocket of clarity in which we stood, the shaft up which sprang the pillar. All along the length of that column, as far as we could see, the myriad tiny eyes of the Metal People shone out upon us, not twinkling mischievously, but grotesque as this may seem, I cannot help it, wide with surprise. Only an instant longer did the great wheel spin. I saw the screaming rock melting beneath it, dropping like lava. Then, as though it had received some message, abruptly its motion now ceased. It tilted, looked down upon us. I noted that its grinding surface was studded thickly with the smaller pyramids, and that the tips of these were each capped with what seemed to be faceted gems gleaming with the same pale yellow radiance as the shrine of the cones. The column was bending, The wheel approaching! Drake seized me by the arm, drew me swiftly back into the mists. We were shrouded in their silences. Step by step we went on, peering for the edge of the shelf, feeling in fancy that prodigious wheeled face stealing upon us, afraid to look behind lest in looking we might step too close to the unseen verge. Yard after yard we slowly covered. Suddenly the vapors thinned. We passed out of them. A chaos of sound beat about us, the clanging of a million anvils, the clamor of a million forges, the crashing of 100 yards of thunder, the roarings of 1,000 hurricanes, the prodigious bellowings of the pit beating against us now as they had when we had flown down the long ramp into the depths of the sea of light. Instinct with unthinkable power was that clamor, the very voice of force. Stunned, nay, blinded by it, we covered ears and eyes. As before, the clangors died, leaving in its wake a bewildered silence. Then that silence began to throb with a vast humming, and through that humming rang a murmur as that of a river of diamonds. We opened our eyes, felt awe grip our throats as though a hand had clutched them. Difficult, difficult almost beyond thought is it for me now to essay to draw in words the scene before us then. For although I can set down what we saw, I nor any man can transmute into phrases its essence, its spirit, the intangible wonder that was its synthesis, the appallingly beautiful, soul-shaking strangeness of it, its grandeur, its fantasy, its alien terror. The domain of the metal monster. It was filled like a chalice with its will, was the visible expression of that will. We stood at the very rim of a wide ledge. We looked down into an immense pit, shaped into a perfect oval 30 miles in length I judged, and half that as wide, and rimmed with colossal precipices. We were at the upper end of the steep valley, and on the tip of its axis. I mean that it stretched longitudinally before us along the line of greatest length. 500 feet below was the pit's floor. Gone were the clouds of light that obscured it the night before, the air crystal clear, every detail standing out with stereoscopic sharpness. First the eyes rested upon a broad band of fluorescent amethyst, ringing the entire rocky wall. It girdled the cliffs at a height of 10,000 feet, and from this flaming zone, as though it clutched them, fell the curtains of sparkling mist, the enigmatic sound-slaying vapors. But now I saw that all of these veils were not motionless, like those through which we had just passed. To the northwest they were pulsing like the aurora, and like the aurora they were shot through with swift iridescences, spectrums, polychromatic gleamings. And always these were ordered geometric, like immense and flitting prismatic crystals flying swiftly to the very edges of the veils, then darting as swiftly back. From zone and veils the gaze leaped to the incredible city, towering not 2 miles away from us. Blue-black, shining, sharply cut as though from polished steel, it reared full 5,000 feet on high. How great it was I could not tell, for the height of its precipitous walls barred the vision. The frowning facade turned toward us was, I estimated, 5 miles in length. Its colossal scarp struck the eyes like a blow. Its shadow falling upon us checked the heart. It was overpowering, dreadful as that midnight city of Dis that Dante saw rising up from another pit. It was a metal city, mountainous, featureless, smooth. The immense wall of it heaved heavenward. It should have been blind, that vast oblong face, but it was not blind. From it radiated alertness, vigilance. It seemed to gaze toward us as though every foot were manned with sentinels, guardians invisible to the eyes whose concentration of watchfulness was caught by some subtle hidden sense higher than sight. It was a metal city, mountainous, and aware. About its base were huge openings. Through and around these portals swirled hordes of the metal people, in units and in combinations, coming and going, streaming in and out.